Yeah, I think I should put that. Well, I mean, I did it. I need to
Life is good. Good weekend. I actually traveled back for Easter. I had Easter night with my dad. But my husband went to the Masters. That was the best Easter. He was there Saturday night. And his best friend had Saturday. And so he was set up for the night. So that was on the he was so he from just walking all day. They walked. I like it was very good. It's very hilly. It's not real hilly. I went to Price Road.
Thank you.
So sorry I was so late.
Because he got presents for everybody. You know what I mean?
No problem, no problem. If you're looking at museums that are you're looking at live, or if it's a part of the to the right, that's what it is. Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, thank you.
So he says, hey, I need to take a picture, like, $40.
That's still what it looks like. I would say. Hey, how's it going?
Just want to shop at it.
It's still fun.
How are you?
And it's something that we showed that has seasons. You know, usually tell somebody he's got like if he doesn't do something.
That is our standard rate. But if the client lets me know $20 off the month, the price is standard. And
It's traditional.
so let's say positive or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so where do you want to pick one out of it?
I'm in the
Every single time we try to do it,
This is perfect timing. I literally had a client ask me yesterday about, I knew the name, but I forgot to get the information. So.
I'm in Orlando, like right down the road.
And now I've moved out of our house into a different house. So like,
Yeah,
I've been there.
it's different. Yeah, it's different than what something.
Yeah, sorry.
Flying nuts.
You guys coordinate colors.
Good morning, good morning. How are you, sir? You always bring this great breakfast.
Hey, I like being known for
Yes, yes.
How's it?
Well,
Yep.
my friend was here. Is that her name?
Like that. Yeah.
But,
Are you being quiet in the corner back there? Oh, man. And you come up and lead singing for us?
I can reach out to her if you want, or just...
I don't know. So early.
I wanted to wait if you guys to
That's what my husband said. Are you talking to Brad? I'm here all day long.
on both of them.
I'm waiting for, I did it, check mark. And I should have said something.
Land in different states.
Yeah, take it out of here, just stand up. I reached out to him a couple days ago, he responded and then didn't respond, so I'm trying to figure it out.
Somebody give me some good news. Children. Sorry, sir. Somebody give me some good news. What's going on with spring news? The spring break is over. Yay! Yes. Okay. Yeah. Good news. It's going to break over. Yes. Yes, ma'am, in the back.
So I had children. I had an open house on Saturday, the day before Easter, and if you all remember, sorry, it was cold, raining, miserable outside. In 550, Leonard High School, I had over 60 people people coming to the house.
All right, so everybody, put your phones down, pick you agents, and listen to what she just now said. Say it one more time. Cold, rainy.
Cold, rainy, miserable. We had to do it on Saturday because Sunday was Easter. 2 to 5. It was freezing. I was wearing a free jacket. And everybody had to take their shoes off. I had the entire foyer was full with shoes. 60 people came in. Minimum. It's not even more.
All right, so you are, if you are a thinking person, what should that tell you about open houses?
Do that.
What?
You should do that.
Ding, 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 yes ma'am.
So similar story, Saturday, Liz Cohen's listing,
Uh-huh.
the chimney lights,
What?
similar situation.
All right, let's stop, so her listing, she held open somebody else's listing.
Liz Cohen at
Okay.
Chimney Lakes,
Uh-huh.
600 at the price point. And I'm texting Liz in the morning, wish me luck for the open house. I do not know who's going to come through.
Uh-huh.
People, I was there at 1:30. People were there in before waiting for me for 2 to 4, and it wouldn't stop. I was there till 5:15, and it wouldn't stop. I had those booties because of the rain, and I was out of there. The booties
All right,
just-
so I'm clear, rainy, cold, Easter weekend. And two people had open houses, and what happened? Packed.
I have 2 offers.
You had two off, okay, that's
Third
what I
one
said.
coming in
All right,
now.
all right, so, all right, just, guys, if you're not doing open houses, you may want to reconsider it. And you can find someone that you held the house open, yes, sir.
And the old thing of don't list on Easter week, we listed Thursday, someplace Saturday.
All right, so I just want y'all to, and thank y'all for coming, by the way, being here, because that's important to me. Because that we're not seeking out open houses every weekend. If I don't have enough business, why I'm doing that is just beyond me. So guys, that's like the best one I could have had. All right, anybody else have good news they want to talk about? Anybody else? Good news, good news, good news. Anybody else? I went with one of my grandsons to Orlando, to Universal, and survived it. That was an adventure. So we had a lot of fun together. Great time with him. So anyway, good times. Let's move on. Carrie.
Yes.
With who you with?
I don't remember.
Carrie and Brent?
Yeah.
Oh, stop, yeah. Uh-huh.
Ed, you wanna do this real quick? I would just like to introduce Ed.
Now let's move.
Hi gang, I'm Ed Morgan. The Quan March Madness 2023 was a success.
Yeah.
We'll be there.
Nice there.
Here are our winners. Winning this is huge here. Anna Howard in a 4-way tie for 4th, got $7.50.
Yeah! I'll take it. Buy a cup of coffee.
Okay. Billy Sweeten, 4-way tie for 4th, $7.50.
Yeah.
All right here.
Yeah.
Brenda Roth, 2 times 4-way tie for 4th, $15.
Woo!
Come on up, Brenda. Come on.
Lunch is on Brenda.
We'll go as far as we'll go.
Got a 3-way tie for 1st. We had a total pot of $600. 300 went to the participants. Mike Strong, 3-way tie for 1st, $90.
Yay, Mike.
Wow.
If you're not here,
No, the rule is to go to the team leader. That's the rule.
the team Amita, also on a 3-way tie for 1st, $90.
Woo!
My team out, way to go.
And Kim Griffin, who led the entire way, but was tied right at the last, also on a 3-way tie for 1st, $90.
Yay! Now I understand why she wanted him to go first. I got it. She wanted her money.
The big winner, that got half of our proceeds was Camp Grace, official check for $300.
That's great. Yay! Wow, that's great. Cool. And you know, Ed, I'll match that.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, so I'll match that. All right.
I'll match that.
You're matching too, great.
I'll match that and then call you, Jim, okay, so we'll double it.
Okay, that sounds great. We'll do it. We'll do it. We'll do it. For Camp Grace. And guys, if you don't know about Camp Grace, it's something that we're supporting. They take underprivileged kids and give them a camp environment during the summer, and we're building a house for them. We're raising $12,000 to help them build a house so they can invite more people. So it's a wonderful organization. You hear more about it. All right, now.
Line out that religion real quick. Sorry, Carrie.
Carrie, just go back downstairs.
I'm totally good.
Who's announcing this?
Libby's,
Oh, gotcha.
agent preview.
So guys, if you have time today, from 11 to 12:30, Libby wants you to come take a look at this house. It's fully renovated, $700,000, and it's in Kendamere Point in Roswell. It's supposed to be gorgeous. She would love you to come out, take a look at the house, and see what you think. And so please come do it today from 11 until 12:30. So stop by and help her out. Carrie, yay!
I've never been more excited to be here. I'm Carrie with Thomas Brown. Good to see you guys. We have our C class coming up on Thursday from 10 to 1. We're doing the Fair Housing Fun. This is the 55th anniversary of Fair Housing Month, so we have all kinds of good stuff to talk about. Of course, we'll have prizes. Of course, we'll have lunch. So, I'm learning some stuff and get some city credits because how many do you need every year? And I get texts at like 10:30 on any given weeknight. Hey, I need 47,000 credits by tomorrow. I'm like, okay, well, I cannot help you, but we can do one every month. So that is what our goal is for you guys. So it's going to be a good class. And then just a reminder, our office locations, we have our Woodstock office. We have this one, obviously, in East Cobb, Galleria, Alpharetta, Blue Ridge, Blackhead, Cartersville, and West Cobb. So we're all over for you guys. And look forward to seeing y'all soon. Thank you.
All right, let's give her a hand. We love you.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Danielle with Silverton Mortgage. Thank you to those that attended our CE class on appraisals. We had a great turnout, and I hope that we provided some valuable information for you. We are sponsoring the Shift to Thrive event with James Shaw. So hopefully those can attend. We'd love to see you.
Yeah, sign up.
Yes, sign up. We're also rolling out our movie party on May 13th. So that will be
Save the
announced.
date.
Save the date. I'll let you know on the movies.
So you guys, in case some of you may, y'all know what that is, the movie party that we sponsor? Okay, some of you do. Does everybody?
No.
So this is a good thank you, Jim. This is a good opportunity for you guys to market to your database. You can get 2 or maybe 3 touches. Part of the problem with marketing to your database is you want to have a reason to call, right? I mean, you don't want to be the realtor or the loan officer that shows up with their hand out every time. But see if you can call and offer something. So what we're doing is we've rented out the Merchants Walk Theater on Saturday morning, May 13th.
May 13th.
And what you'll do is we'll prepare a co-branded flyer for you. You will call you can send it to your clients and then call them. Hey, did you get the invitation that I sent? Come to the what?
4 questions.
Yeah, is it 4?
Yeah.
I couldn't count. So you can make sure they got it. There are going to be 3 movies at least that are offered. There'll be one that's a kids movie and one that maybe adults may enjoy. And the way it works is you guys do the marketing, we cover the cost. It doesn't cost you anything. We're also going to track who that you've invited that actually shows up. You don't have to be there. We'll give you the list afterward of your invitees who attended, and then you'll have an opportunity for another touch. You might call them the day before the movie and say, hey, you're going to be able to come. Some realtors will actually show up and be there to greet their folks when they come. You might want to buy them a Coke and popcorn. We used to do that, but inflation's gotten to everything. And I will tell you, we can go from 100, we can have 150 people. One time we had 900. I promise you, we did not intend for there to be 900 people there, especially when the credit card came out at the end of it. Anyway, so I hope you guys will be a part of this. Tell them, you want to tell who James Shaw is?
Yes. Can you roll it back, please?
Yeah.
Oh, can you roll the flyer back? Is everybody aware of the mastermind call that we've been doing for 3 years? Is everybody on that call? Yes, you are.
Yes.
Yes.
You are. So some of the top realtors are on that call. Can I give a brief background of why this call started? Y'all know what happened in March 2020, right? God sent us all home and said, time out, y'all need to behave, you've been misbehaving, that's all. So James, who was a bold coach, traveled the world teaching for KWRI, said, oh my God, if I lost my job, y'all are gonna be homeless, you won't have any business. Well, it didn't happen. Business kept happening, and James really stepped up as a servant leader and has been leading us. This little group is now 111,000 on Facebook, right? So we mastermind every morning, and then we go live from 8 to 8:20. The tips and you could just listen to this call and run your whole business. So he's coming. It's a $25 charge. I think that's to offset the lunch. Yeah, I know. So skin in the game. So every last one of you, we've sent you that flyer over and over again. You should be signing up to come hear this man who apparently knows what he's talking about. And Magda, you want to say something?
I just want to share something. It's not just real estate related. It is really life changing.
Yes.
It's really life changing to see other people who struggle, who succeed, who go through things through life. It's just really good. Good. Highly recommend. My kids listen to me sometimes in the morning and they're like, Mommy, this is interesting. What are you talking about?
Yeah. And you have no idea who's hiding and lurking on that call. There are OPs on that call, there are regional directors on that call, because MREAs, obviously this man brings massive value, and it is a community like no other. No other community exemplifies our culture like the Pivot Shift. That's all I have to say.
So this is for all the Rawls Group offices, so I'm hoping you guys can attend. It's a privilege to be able to provide something for y'all. We're gonna sit down now, but I want to tell you real quickly, interest rates, just so you'll know, your clients will ask, they're back in the mid-sixes. I think that's what Pat's gonna talk about a lot, about what's happening in the market, what we can expect over the next few months. Great quote from Mortgage News Daily, which, by the way, guys, if that's probably the one place that y'all can look and see what's happening in the mortgage industry without subscribing to something. If they said mortgage rates put in a great performance last week, especially if you stop paying attention on Thursday. Because Friday, they worsened again, and then yesterday, basically the same thing, because everybody's looking toward tomorrow, which I'm sure Pat's gonna talk about with the inflation numbers. So thank you very much, appreciate you guys a lot. Yes, Rusty? Mortgage News Daily. Yeah. You can't get specific rates, but you can see generally, you can see trends, which is really probably the most helpful thing. Thanks, guys.
All right, give him a hand. Thank you to our wonderful sponsor, Store Square. Come on up. Come on. He always brings us great meals here. Come on, man. Come up. Sorry. We get fed well when it's got.
Can I ask everybody really quick to get your business cards out? I'm going to pass this hat. And if you put your card in the hat, you will then be drawn potentially to win a little prize. So thank you so much.
We'll work together.
But hi everybody, I'm Steven. I'm with Store Square Atlanta. I provide portable storage and moving containers. I tell people, think of us like a locally owned and operated, more cost effective, friendlier version of pods here in Atlanta. So you can kind of extrapolate what we do from that. I have a big metal box to put your stuff in. A couple things really quick that sets us apart is the fact that these are steel containers. They are not wood or vinyl. They are very tough to break into. You need like a blowtorch and a sledgehammer to break into one of our containers. Absolutely weatherproof. This can sit outside in a hurricane, in a storm, and all the contents inside will be perfectly fine. Our delivery system keeps the container completely horizontal throughout the entire move. When we get it on the truck, take it off the truck, move it around with our forklift, put it on the driveway, whatever, it stays flat. No tilting or rolling of the container that dislodges the contents. It's a very simple product. Usually a lot of questions come up about it, use cases. One of the ways, or a couple of the ways that we store the container is either on site, so on the client's property, whether it's their business or their home, or we can store it for them at our lot in Marietta. Do I have any questions? Usually it's better to get a conversation going with questions or use cases. Yes?
You said lot, is it climate control?
Okay, great question, I was gonna get to that. So we, in the past, tested out climate control inside of a warehouse. Turns out a lot of our clients didn't really opt in for that, so we have gone away and saved that cost. We do not have a warehouse or a climate controlled way to store. However, if somebody has a piano or fine art, I would not want them to put that in our container anyway. Put that in a self-storage place where it could say AC, air conditioning. Any sort of regular household items, your furniture, your boxes, your odds and ends, all that stuff is completely safe. As long as no water gets into the container via a water bottle or cleaners or water in the washing machine hose, as long as no water gets into the container, none will get in from the outside. There will be no mold. I know that's the big issue. There'll be no mold. Your items actually don't bake as hot as you would think inside of a container like this. There are some vents on the unit that lets air flow in and out. So your items will get a little bit hotter in the summer than outside, a little bit colder, than the outside in the winter time. But your stuff is going to stay absolutely completely safe. Good question with the climate control data. Yes, ma'am.
Can you ship your boxes nationwide?
Not yet. We can go from here to Knoxville. We just opened up a Knoxville location. So if you're going from here to Knoxville, yes. Eventually we hope to be nationwide. That opens up another good question. Our delivery range is about a 50-mile radius of Atlanta. We can go outside of that. It's just going to cost a little bit more in delivery costs, but about a 50-mile radius of Atlanta hits our $95 delivery flat rate. Question?
So what about when you said delivery, bringing it to the house cost $95, and then sending it somewhere else is additional $95?
Yes. So every single time, you can think of it this way, every single time our truck touches the container to move it, $95. So we can move it as many times as they want. One of the biggest things I want you guys to know is a couple of things when it comes to pricing. You're seeing our general pricing. This is our standard pricing on this sheet right here. If I know that the client is coming from a realtor, then they get $20 off the monthly rental rate of whatever container they use. Additionally, if another company is running some crazy special deal, and let's say they're somehow cheaper than us, we have a best rate guarantee. I did this yesterday with Pods. They were running a crazy deal on delivery, so the client responded and sent me their quote and said, hey, can you match this? And I did. We have a best rate guarantee. I'll match anything for an apples to apples comparison to make sure they get the best container, the best service at the best price. Any other questions? A lot of, yes? No, well, where's the hat with your stuff there? Here it is. Okay, so I'm going to pull a name out of here that's gonna win. I'm gonna email you or send you a gift card, $50 gift card here. I know, big stuff. Mercury's in retrograde today apparently, so I did bring my own hat, so thank you for providing. And the winner of today will be Ashton. Excellent. And I will get that to you, okay?
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Don't
Guys,
forget to mention your co-branded flyers. Don't you do that?
yeah. Okay, yes we do. That's our marketing girl handles that. But yes, I can get you guys a Store Square flyer to hand to your client. If you send me your name and your logo. Well, actually, you have the logo. Your headshot. I can make you guys a co-branded flyer. Thank you for reminding me of that. I don't handle that, so I forget about it sometimes.
I use them.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you guys so much. And I'm Steven with Store Square. I'll be handling your clients most likely, so you know who to come to if there are any issues or if there are any great things you want to talk about.
Thank you.
I'm gonna get you, so that number up top will get you to our office.
Okay.
But I'm gonna send you guys my contact information as well, so you can use me directly.
One of the things I love about this is that Kimberly is now, the people that send information to her, she is spotlighting agents and staff. So today the spotlight is, look who's here. Who could this be? Christy Hyatt, VP Consumer Marketing at Truist Bank. What was it called back then?
SunTrust.
It's a wonderful bank. Each located because of the training and the support. 13 years in real estate and on our ALC also. Let's give Christy a hand. And Magdalena is also previous occupation, a dental surgeon's office, administrative coordinator, showcased because of the culture and the core.
values.
The core value, that core value, which are 5 years in real estate, also has been on the ALC, amazing. Interesting fact, did I miss your interesting fact last time?
No, there's nothing interesting about it.
Interesting fact, I came to the United States on September 10th, 2001 as an international student from Poland. I changed my major several times in political science, philosophy, business administration, criminal justice, and finally real estate in Georgia. So is criminal justice related to real estate in Georgia? Exactly. So anyway, we love Magdalena. We love that she's here with us, and let's give her a hand also. All right, headshot with Jeremy Damo, I guess. Reserve your spot, 20-minute session, open to individuals, groups, and teams. $100 session, they will be receive multiple images, allowed 2 outfit changes. So that's coming up, and to do this, what do you do?
Email me if you want. It's fine.
Tomorrow. So get your headshot. Don't be like a lot of people my age, they still have their high school headshot on their flyer. So we'll do that. Marketing through Facebook. Now, guys, if you have not seen what Magdalena is doing on Facebook, it is some of the best stuff I've ever seen. It is gorgeous. It looks professional. And you do that through your phone?
I do, and I will be doing that with Ashton tomorrow because what I learned from her.
Wow.
So we'll do it together. I'll share my campaign that has given me the most Facebook leads without too much info. Come see it. I couldn't believe that happened. And videos, yes, with your phone.
And you all, when I tell you it is the best looking, ads. I thought they should hire publicists to help her out with it. It's gorgeous. You can come do that tomorrow, April the 12th, from 11 to 12 downstairs or up here. Downstairs in the lead gen room. Associate Leadership ALC. ALC meeting is this Wednesday, tomorrow from 11:30 to 1. Everyone is welcome to come and sit in on the ALC meeting and see what we discuss, what we talk about. We talk about the office and whether it's profitable or not, and we have money in the bank. So guys, come see what's going on. And if you want to be on the ALC one of these years, that's a great place for you to come and sort of see what the ALC is all about. So just remind you about that also. Code of Ethics. You have to have this when you renew your license. 3 hours of C credit taught by Kathy Wood. She does it quite well. And it's Friday the 14th. It's Friday from 9 until 12 on Zoom. $20. Good deal. Paige Morgan. Paige, talk about this. Please. Your class.
This is really exciting. This is the first time that I have ever spoken outside of the Southeastern region. And I am speaking in Oklahoma at their team meeting, and it's being videoed from here. And Kimberly and I have worked out something where we can actually have the studio audience.
Wow.
So that would be great, because this is something brand new for me, and I would love to have my peeps here supporting me, and maybe with some great questions that they could ask while we are speaking to Oklahoma and talking to them about what's going on in our market and how we state the claim your unfair share of the market. I'm teaching from here. And for their sales meeting, and it is
April 17th, 2 p.m. in the Quan Training Room.
right here.
Exactly right.
So I would really appreciate it if y'all would make an effort to be here, and I think maybe you can learn something, but I sure would ask you to come and support me in this.
100%. And Paige is one of our biggest supporters. She's here in front of almost every single week. So Paige, I've got her on my calendar. I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna ask you some tough questions too.
Yeah, I don't doubt that.
That's right. Our Red Day's coming up Thursday, May the 11th. This is when we give back to the community. How to participate, sign up, and we'll be emailed to closer to the date to sign up for this. What is Red Day? Who wants to talk about Red Day today?
I'll talk about it.
All right, Lisa, talk about Red Day.
Okay, so Red Day is Mo Anderson's birthday, and across the country, Keller Williams offices close and go out and do a day of service. We are going to be supporting 2 charities. One is Must Ministries in Marietta, and the other one is Nothing But the Truth, which feeds underserved families in Gwinnett. And so we're gonna be putting out, the link to sign up. We've got, opportunities to serve morning, afternoon, and late afternoon, early afternoon and late afternoon, and to do some activities here in the, office, and we're also gonna be doing a food drive.
And thank you for your leadership on that.
So go ahead and mark yourself off on your calendar for that day so that you don't schedule anything, and we'd love to, it's a lot of fun too. with
It's a
everybody
lot of
out
fun,
there.
guys. And the ones that go to, oh, Jim, I'm so happy I did this because I did this, and I feel like I gave back to the community, guys. And Must Ministries is an incredible ministry that serves people that are just like us, that are down on their luck. So guys, please come and help us, because it's a blessing to be able to give back during that day. And Mo Anderson's birthday also, who is the vice chairman of the board for Keller Williams, and she's an amazing lady and a dear friend. So please put it on your calendar. All right, this is something I get to do today.
Jim, the
Sir.
Supreme Paddy Wagon will be here too.
Say it one more time.
Yes, they will.
The Supreme Paddy Wagon will be here also, so.
And Supreme Silverton will also be helping us with happy hour.
Cool, so we got two people on that day, guys, so please come. Guys, the listings is what will set you free. Those who control the listings control the market. My friend Jenny Pruitt once said, if you don't have a listing, a sign out there, you're basically a secret agent, which I love that deal. So this person got their first listing, and it is Amia? Who?
M.A.
Amy?
M.A.
I can't pronounce my own name. Here we got, congratulations, let's give them a hand. Incredible. Wanda Sodell got her first listing. Way to go, Wanda. Well, she should be here. And Sahar also got a first listing. Yay! Look at Sahar. And Stacy, first listing. Just this, right? Stacy, can you catch?
All right.
I love it. All right, first closing, guys. This will also set you free, and let's be able to get your first payday. That's right, guys. Now, what you're getting is a lot better than this. But anyway, our first closings, and the first one is Tony. Is Tony here? Let's give Tony a hand. There you go, Tony. March Cappers. Now, guys, this is something that I don't want anybody else to do but me. What does it mean? That it is complicated. That you cap. What does that mean? Someone tell me.
Keep all your commission.
Say it one more time.
Keep all your commission.
Part of your commission.
Well, what, I'm saying.
Oh, no. Sorry, is that not right?
That's first half one.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so these are the people that have capped, which means they're gonna be at 100% for a while, which I love. So our March cappers, a whole bunch of us. Let's go through them, okay? Courtney, let's give Courtney a hand. Let's give her a hand. Okay, Courtney, way to go. Adam, let's give Adam a hand. Way to go, Adam. Allison, let's give Allison a hand. Libby, Kathy, one more time. Way to go, Libby. Way to go, Libby. Stephanie Can, Kathy, one more time. Way to go, Stephanie. Woo. Liz Carr, let's give her a hand. Way to go, Liz. Marion Caprice, capping again. Way to go, Marion. Wow, this is capping. I love it. Gail Harris, one more time, cap. And Gail's basically retired and living at the lake, and so she still caps, even living at the lake and doing less business. Way to go, Gail. I'm proud of you. Teresa and John Gale, they capped again. Way to go, guys. I'm proud of you. Anna Howard capped again. Way to go. Valerie Jones. Valerie Jones, congratulations, Valerie. Jennifer Kinslow capped again. Joanne and Jason Lunt, capping again. Way to go, the white team. Congratulations, guys. Katie Rundon, way to go, Katie. Yay. Angela Presley, come on, man. With all the brain power, right? Let's give her a hand, you all. Congratulations. Look who else is capped. Come on up here, Lisa. Lisa, it's you. Congratulations. Congratulations. We're glad that you capped again. We're proud of you guys. Okay. Let's see who else capped. Julie Papayas. Way to go, Julie. Janice and Gunnar capped one more time. Let's give them a hand. Lessons learned. there's not one today. So guys, a few weeks ago, I was talking to a friend of mine named Pat Flood. On Pat Flood and I, Pat, how long have we known each other?
Long time.
A long time. So I've known Pat a long time. And what award has Pat not won? I mean, Captain of Industry. He's won so many awards. But I know Pat's heart, and he puts God first in his life, puts his family next, and then his business. And he still runs a company very similar to this one, where the culture is serving others. I call Pat a dear friend, a close friend. We've been through a few things together, Pat. We've been through a few things together, which is true. But I talked to him about a month ago, and I said, Pat, so tell me what you're seeing out there, because a couple people are forecasting that by the summer, rates could be at 5.5%. Now, does anybody really know that?
No.
The answer is no, they do not. But I'm hearing more and more. The head of NAR, Chief Economist Lauren June, he says rates will be going down. Not maybe, Mike Lawrence is saying rates will be going down. And rates will eventually do what? Go down before they go back up, which is cool. So I said, Pat, tell me what you're seeing out there. And I told him to keep it in English, not in this thing where he talks up here and I can understand what I mean. You have to keep it in English. But I asked Pat to come talk and say, here's what I'm seeing out here, and here are the chances the race may be there, and here's what's going to happen. So, Pat Flood, come on, everybody. Come on, let's give him a hand.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Jim, I was hoping you were gonna wear your blue shoes.
I know, man.
So then we can kind of be twins.
We
You know
got
what I mean?
exactly right.
Jim gave me a hard time, by the way. I don't know if it's me.
I did.
Gave me a hard time about how I was dressed. He said, "You look like you're 13."
Yeah, baby.
When you get to this age, that's what you try to do, right? You try to go backwards. So I asked the crowd that day, there were a couple hundred people in the crowd, if they liked my shoes, and they liked my shoes, so I bought Jim a pair of shoes. He tells me now he wears them out to get the newspaper. Well, there's no longer a newspaper, so he doesn't do that either. Anyway, I've known Jim, he just said how long, since the 90s. I've been in our industry now for 37 years. And I met Jim early in my career, and I'll never forget probably the hallmark moment of our relationship, and there's been a lot of hallmark moments, but was Jim called me one day in the late 90s, and my assistant answered the phone, and I was really busy, and we were not hiring. We had maybe 1,000 people at the time working in the organization, but we weren't hiring. It was a market not so dissimilar to this one. And he was insistent. Judy finally got me on the phone with them, and I was exhausted. And Jim said, I need you to do me a favor. And I said, what's that? He said, I want you to interview this guy. No, we're not hiring. I didn't tell Jim we're not hiring, but I remember thinking to myself, I want to tell Jim I'm not hiring. And then Jim said, this guy just needs to talk to somebody right now. He needs a little bit of hope in his life. So I said, fine, Jim. As a favor, I'm going to do this. This is what great leaders do. They think about the needs of other human beings. This is a guy that was at his church, at Jim's church. Wasn't anything to do with business, just please, Pat. So this gentleman, who, by the way, we saw him at a funeral not so long ago. And thank God it wasn't his. This gentleman and I, had coffee. By the time coffee ended, I said, okay, I'm going to give you a job. He had 2 kids. And I said, I have no idea what you're going to do, but we'll figure that out. Here's how much money we can pay you. And he was delighted. About 6 or 7 years later, he called my assistant, he was still working in our organization, and asked if he could come visit. He did, and had coffee with me. And he told me the story that day he was driving around Atlanta with a gun in his car. And he planned on committing suicide. He didn't think there was any other way out of his life at that time. And, you know, I share that with you because I've known this guy for a long time, and I'll never forget that story. How could you? I mean, how could you? But it also reminded me, and this past Easter weekend, by the way, happy belated Easter to all of you. This past Easter weekend, believe it or not, I mean, if you're sitting in the audience, there's some people who have bad church experiences, no church experiences, and they're not believers, and that's cool, totally cool. I love on people, period, end of story. But what we often miss in life is we miss those moments like I just described to you, where we just stop for a second and there's another human being, and I don't care what condition they're in. Maybe they just need a kind word. Maybe they just need you to do something decent again for them, so that they're reminded that there is hope in mankind. Because if you turn on social and the TV, there's a lot of news and most of it's not so good. So I want to take just a minute. This doesn't happen often. Usually an audience where they're following a leader. Usually the reason to tap Jim, text, phone, email is I have a problem. And that's what leaders usually do, is problem solve. That's their job after all. So there's no sympathy for leaders. It's what God gives you the blessing to be able to do in other people's lives, is help them along the way solve some of their problems. But I've closed the door with a lot of leaders in my life, in my business life. And I can tell you that when you close the door, I always look for the same thing. Is the person the same person as when the door's open in front of a crowd? Or is it a different person that just closed the door and they have a different set of values? This cat, the one that you all have the blessing of being with every day, even though I've got nicer shoes than him, okay? Cooler shoes. This guy is a great guy. Let's give it up for Jim Alexander.
These are nicer than these. Are you kidding me? These are Gucci's.
The thing about those shoes is you can buy them, wear them with a tux.
That's right. You can.
And then when they wear out, you can indeed wear them like around the yard and everything else. I mean,
By the way, they're not Gucci's. They're not.
So anyway, hey, Silverton, I just want to give you guys a shout out. We've been in this office with you guys for a long time. And when other people are doing it right, it's great. Just tip my hat to you guys, because you guys do it right. So I'm just grateful that we're able to be partners here at East Cobb. And the fact that, you know, I don't really think about us as competitors. I think about us as just doing this journey called life together. And we get to do mortgages, you get to do them, we get to do them. And it's a beautiful thing. Thank all of you for your support today. So I am actually going to talk about the economy just a bit. All right. So the other way.
It's wrong in your hand.
Upside down.
There you go.
Hey, by the way, the tie's supposed to be doing this. God bless you. By the way, isn't it great? You just sneeze, God bless you. We didn't all leave the room. Yeah, life has really changed, hasn't it? And then it changed again, and it's going to change even again. Anyway, I want to share with you a couple things, because this is just the way we think about leadership. There's two words we use all the time at Supreme. And I would just encourage you, because this is like, how many parents in the room? Raise your hand. Yeah, this is what we do as parents. When we're leading other people, first the person in the mirror, okay? That's okay, I don't talk about slides anyway.
Right there.
But there's two things we do as leaders, okay? We both encourage and inspire people to be the best version of themselves, not like someone else, but of who God, in my way of thinking, made them possible to be, right? Personally and professionally. That's first. So we use best all the time. Why? Because we want people to pursue their best. That's what Jim wants, and it's what I want. And I want it in your personal life, and I want it in your professional life as well. The way to get there is our mission. This weekend, I sent out a communication to our company, so believe it or not, this is the deal. Relationships are the most important part of your life. There is no second. It is the single biggest thing. And you're not in the real estate business, and I'm not in the mortgage banking business. We're in the relationship business. We build a bridge called trust based on knowledge. People that know more can do more for the people that they're actually serving every single day. But serving others requires you to sacrifice for someone else. And when you serve another human being, it's the greatest act in history, in my opinion. You have to make sacrifice. You give up yourself for something else. And if they think you're doing it for what you're going to get, there's no bridge called trust. If they do it because you do it, because you genuinely and sincerely care about making their life a bit richer, now we got a bridge that we're starting to build. So serve, sacrifice, accept. In the world today, we are so quick, and by the way, this is so unnatural to live our lives this way. That's why relationships don't get done very well. And if you want evidence of that, just turn on social media, because people who don't even know each other are arguing with each other. Fascinating as it is, right? Just because we disagree with each other. So accept, and then finally forgive. Anybody here in the room ever do anything where they had to ask another person to forgive them? Isn't it interesting when we need someone else to forgive us, we're going, please forgive me, and we want it so quickly, and yet when it's our turn, it's such a hard thing to do. So I just want to tell you that that model, believe it or not, that model is just truth about the greatest people I've ever met in my entire life, and the way they do relationship. They serve others, they sacrifice for others, expect nothing back in return. They basically accept everybody just the way they are, love on them just the way they are, not the way they want them to be. And then finally, they make sure that they forgive the person in the mirror and everybody else has ever hurt them. People that travel without forgiving, they're hurt people and they wind up hurting people. That's what happens. All right. You guys want to talk about the economy a little bit here? All right. So, by the way, we have 3 ways. This is what leaders do, and I want to share it with you and all of our partnerships. We have 36 partners like this. By the way, this is, our best performing partnership. And I give you a lot of credit for that, Jim, and really all of you. Just, you guys got a great environment here. And I know the natural thing to do in life, which is what we all do, relationships. We find everything that's wrong with our spouses, significant others, our employers, everything else, instead of being intentional and focusing on all the things that are right. So that's what I would encourage you all to do. We want to bring inspiration because every single human being I've ever met wants it and needs it. They want to be inspired to be better. They want to be reminded they can be. The second thing we need to be educated because we need to know more about what we do. By the way, if you go visit a doctor, you want them to know the latest medicine that's available to treat your ailment. I just got off a plane this past weekend. I really hope the pilot's done all of this training, right? I mean, what we want of all the people that we engage in life is we want them to be best educated. Finally, we want them to serve us best. This is Doug Duncan, by the way, one of the funniest, coolest guys I've ever met. He is the chief economist with Fannie Mae. Outside of the U.S. federal government, Fannie Mae, who's not a woman, and Freddie Mac is not a man. Fannie Mae is the Federal National Mortgage Association, and they package debt, mortgage debt, and they issue that debt around the world. People buy that debt. It's got a Fannie Mae label on it. It's called a security. It's got a lot of individual loans in it. And he's the chief economist with Fannie Mae. He employs 38 in his modeling group. Freddie Mac, by the way, is a competitor. They have about like 6 people. This guy has been noted forever for his economic forecasting. He is a funny guy. 2 weeks ago at 4:30 in the morning on Saturday, he sends me this text. Pat, I have some homework for you. 4:30 in the morning. Okay, I look at the text while I'm sleeping. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, right? First of all, I'm not getting up to do the homework right now, but it was an hour and 12-minute monetary policy debate between 2 economists. I was like, oh my God. I actually did watch it though, it's fascinating. But this was up in Washington. I became friends with him because I had a bunch of folks used to get poached by Fannie Mae. They have a big office here in the region, so they used to hire our folks pretty frequently. I said, just call and be respectful and ask to hire them. I'll let you do it. It's a great company. But I asked one of my buddies that was there if he could get me Doug to come speak to the Atlanta community, and he said, you know, Pat, other lenders won't like that. I said, yeah, but the benefit will inure to the people that do like it, which will be the audience there. He came, I told him I was a 1%er. Y'all are probably thinking rich. No, I read the Bible every day. I'm a Bible lover. He actually told me he is too. So we got to be friends. And this was 15 years ago. And so we interview him probably every 3 months for some of the programs that we do. We'll have him back here in Atlanta, by the way, sometime early this summer. We had him last year. He's an amazing dude. Funny too. This was the day we were expecting to get another set of news that would tell us that the economy was getting back to normal and rates would continue to decline. This was the first week of March. February's unemployment number came out. It was supposed to be about 250,000 jobs. It was 512. That was the Fed's bell rung, which is it's not done yet, meaning inflation. The more demand for jobs, employers have to pay more to get people to come to work. They increase their labor cost, and then they have to turn around and charge customers for it. So that was not a great day. We did go to Washington. If you want to see the program, by the way, it's on our website, supremebest.com. And he does a great job breaking down very simply how the economy works. And I want to give you all some updates on this because it's really simple. If you're in the housing industry, there's three things that drive this industry. Every industry has drivers to it. This industry, I wouldn't quite say it's like toothpaste, but a little bit, okay? Like, we use toothpaste every day. Guess what? We either rent a roof or we own a roof in America. That's what happens. 99.9% of the people rent or own a roof historically. 50 years, we're talking about 160 million households in America. Over the last 50 years, the average home ownership rate is 67%. That number does not vary very much. The low side has been about 63% around the Great Recession. The high side just around 70%. That was before the Great Recession. One of the reasons for the Great Recession is we gave too many people loans that could not pay them back. So on a statistical basis, right now we're running right around 67%. So that part of the housing market is normal, but about nothing else is. But what drives housing is three things. One is demographics, people. And guess what's happening in San Francisco today? People are leaving. Guess what's happening in New York today? People are leaving. And guess where they're going?
Atlanta.
Yes!
Charlotte.
There's 4 places they're going, most prominently 4 states. Florida, Georgia, Texas, North Carolina. That's where people are going to. Why? SEC football!
And there would be another reason?
Yes.
No, I mean, no, why they're coming here is the business community is better here. The weather is better here, net of Saturday. Taxes are better in the South. In fact, of the 9 states in America that don't have income tax, Florida is one of them. And guess what else has just happened recently to make the demographic movement accelerate? Virtual work. In the white collar community today, more than half of the people in America can now work out of their home, okay? And guess what? I have folks that have been working with me forever in our operations group that make 6 figures, and guess what? If Jeannie Figdors today said, I want to move to Florida, she could get a 6% pay increase just by moving to Florida. And believe it or not, there's still some places that are pretty inexpensive to move to Florida. So what's happening right now is there's a continuation of demographic. By the way, the demographics in America are growing about 1.5%. So households every year grow about 1.5%. But it's not just the growth, it's where are they going. So there's ingress, egress, and we are in the ingress side of things. In San Francisco, I just read this morning, they opened up a Whole Foods, and I'm not picking on San Francisco, maybe a little. I just saw the article this morning, they opened a Whole Foods, big mega Whole Foods a year ago, they're closing it today. Because of the complexity of our world today, right? And so government does matter. State government matters, and the policies that are being built. Anybody here ever hear of Vance, Alabama? Guess what's located in Vance, Alabama? The one and only Mercedes-Benz factory in America. They build cars there. And why did they pick Vance, Alabama, and not Detroit, Michigan?
Taxes.
Taxes. They were given like a 100-year no tax idea. And everyone's like, wow, that's giving the rich. No. They employ 12,000 people there now who all pay taxes. Spartanburg, South Carolina, what's it famous for? BMW. Right? So demographics, and we got it going on right now in the Southeast. And Atlanta is, by the way, Atlanta. The nation is at 3.5% unemployment. That is a 50-year low. Atlanta's 3.1. So on the margin, when kids are getting out of school this time of year around the country, many of them are looking at the Southeast and saying, that's the place I want to go. Look, my son went to the University of Alabama. That's why I'm a big Bama fan. By the way, I told you earlier about relationships. I might as well finish it. Ready? I'm for everybody. I'm not for everything. But I'm still for everybody. So I'm for Alabama. That doesn't make me hate Auburn. There's a bunch of crazy Alabama fans, though, that hate Auburn. I mean, really. I don't hate Georgia. I love Georgia. I live in Georgia. When Georgia wins a national championship, I cry for a minute. And then everybody's happy and buys houses and I get to finance them. It's a beautiful thing. All right, so demographics, everybody with me? Check the box. No better place to be. And by the way, I would argue no better place to be than East Cobb County. I mean, you all are sitting in like East Cobb, Roswell, this is like a pretty good place. Employment is second. People have to have jobs to buy homes. People don't take out long-term debt without the ability to repay it. The job does it. It's the single biggest thing that Reed and his team at Silverton and we and Fannie Mae all agree on. We've got to see the viability of repayment. There's actually a law called ATR, ability to repay, that if you actually make someone a loan and they don't pay it back, they can take you to court. And if you made them a loan and they didn't have the viability proof to be able to pay it back, they could actually then have their mortgage retired. Okay, so the reality of it is, when you hear this tension that's going on in and around how we risk manage loans, there are things that govern what we can and what we can't do. But employment, here's the good news, 3.1% here, it's never been better. There's just under 10 million jobs. It just went below 10 million open jobs in America. It's the biggest number ever in history. It went like under 9 million. And this is part of the story we're gonna get to in terms of the last thing is affordability here in a second. Affordability is what we all experienced in the second half of last year. Historically, home prices on the margin go up about 5% a year. This is like a 50-year average, and it's a national number. So if you want to go down to Santa Rosa Beach, throw that number out, okay? Because that's not a normal kind of idea right now. But if you take the national number, historically, housing is going to go up at about 5% a year. By the way, the stock price in the stock market go up 6-7% a year. Okay, so these are like real returns for mature businesses. So affordability, we had 2 years in a row where we almost went to 20%. First time in my history of being in this business, I financed just under 400,000 homes in my career. So I've seen mostly everything. And then the last 3 years, I saw everything. And maybe it's not over yet, but the last 3 years, I've seen things I've never seen in my entire life happen in this business. We had in the first 350,000 mortgages that I financed, probably 10 where appraisals came in short. Why? The reality of an appraisal is a buyer and a seller without fraud agreeing what the market value is today. That's the real value. All appraisers do is make sure there's not fraud. Right? So they show up to make sure that this is rational and a reasonable idea, but buyers and sellers, they set the pricing. So then in the last couple of years, my goodness gracious, at one point, like 15 to 20% of all the appraisals we did were coming back short. Why? Because the market was moving so fast, prices going up so high, appraisers couldn't justify the market pricing. They just couldn't do it. So we had the prices go up, but demand continued to take place. When I tell you I haven't seen this before, my son sold a house in Crabapple a year and a half ago, put it on the market on Thursdays. The agent I know very well, by the way, Keller Williams, sent me a video. I thought it was a COVID testing line. But it was actually people outside the house waiting for the listing to officially make itself available. By Saturday evening, this is Thursday, by Saturday evening, 25 contracts. I get on the phone with the agent because my son's bright guy, he's in our business, but I've never seen anything like this, so I wanted to talk to the agent just to say, so let's sort this out. By the time we finished 15 minutes conversation, 26, 27, bing, bing, came in on the email. I've never seen anything like that. Here's the news. I just saw this happen recently where 15 people did this on a property here in East Cobb County, $850,000 sales price. Guess what? The good news is if your buyer didn't get the contract, good. There's 15 people that made bids. There's 14 that are out still looking. So when people try to tell me we have a difficult market right now, I'm like, listen, I've seen this industry when there's been very little demand. Demand still exists. We just have this complexity that's affordability, and it is first 2 years of unprecedented price increases, and then the next thing happened. But before we get to the next thing, which I will tell you here in just a bit, we talked about what drives Georgia housing is demographics. We talked about, we didn't talk about this, NAR, they made the Atlanta market the #1 market to watch in 2023. This is great information, by the way, to give to your customers, right? If people are in a weird environment right now and they're uncertain, and making big financial decisions when you're uncertain is really hard to do, they just need to feel the confidence that actually is backed up by the data. And the data about Atlanta should make you feel really confident you're buying housing. Where we've been, I wanted to give you just a bit of background, and this gets to the affordability issue. This chart, by the way, is about purchase applications nationally, and it goes back to second quarter of last year. The first half of last year and the second half are like two different stories. The first half of last year, interest rates, which is that line on the top, that rate number was running below 4.5%, which, by the way, the average 50-year average on 30-year fixed rate mortgages is just under 7%. Okay, so rates aren't high. Relatively speaking, against 2020, 21, 22, they're higher. But on a historical basis, rates are average today, okay? So if you can see what's happening is the purchase demand is kind of pretty good in the beginning of last year. It drops down to what I would tell you was, I think, the bottom in the second half of last year, and I think the bottom actually was in November. And that's because interest rates on the chart, you can see where they are topping out in that period of time. So what's happening is we're pre-approving buyers, Supreme, your buyers, Silverton is, and we're pre-approving them at 3.5 and 4, and that's what they can afford. And they're already worried about pricing having gone up. And then all of a sudden they find out that interest rates are no longer 4, and they're no longer 5, and they're no longer 6. We had the fastest increase and the highest increase in the history of this industry in a 3-month period of time, ever. And that's like shock. So demographics, great. Employment, great. Affordability, not so much. But what happens is pay increases continue to climb annually. And if pricing remains flat in the marketplace, and even if interest rates remain flat, then affordability, the distance starts getting close because people are making more money. Inflation is actually being, part of the fueling of it has been labor cost increases because we couldn't get people to go back to work. Something about having like a permanent vacation and us giving you money and then saying, okay, now you actually have to go to work. I don't want to. I'd rather just do what I'm doing, getting money. By the way, a really quick story on that. I have a home in Water Sound, which is in Santa Rosa Beach. And I'm sitting on the beach one day, and this guy behind me, I know he lives there, and this is pretty expensive community. The guy's behind me, and he's talking to his son-in-law. And I'm not eavesdropping, I promise you, but it was one of those weekends where everybody was kind of tight on the beach. The guy, the older gentleman, like, tells his son-in-law, "Oh yeah, I just got my stimulus check." I turned around and looked at him. I was like, "And you? Oh my God, you got what? A stimulus check?" I mean, we didn't intend to do this. Everybody wants to point blame at someone. We had an event unfold that was unprecedented. And real quick, before I get to the next slides, I want to tell you what happened, because it's really pretty simple. And this is how inflation actually got created. We hadn't had inflation in 40 years. Why? Because the world population is growing at about 1.5%. And population creates demand. And when demand takes place, it's either for services or goods. So if population's growing at 1.5% per year, that's what demand's going to grow at. You cannot get inflation out of that. That's why for 40 years, and by the way, that was not the case. That was not the case 40 years ago in America. The average family was 3 kids or 4 kids. Well, that's shrinking now. It's shrinking in China, it's shrinking in all the developed nations, okay? So all of a sudden you go, okay, we shut the economy down in May of 2020. We went from 3.5% unemployment. We lost 20 million jobs in 30 days. Unemployment went from 3.5% to 14.8. We haven't seen 14.8 since the Great Depression, okay? But that's what happened. We told people to go home. You all remember that. So we said, let's not make anything around the world because we're afraid of the disease, whatever, okay? Everybody go home. And then what happened is our federal government and all the governments around the world did exactly the same thing, just their version of it. We had a $28 trillion national deficit at the time. We printed $7 trillion of new money, and we gave it to everybody. We doubled your unemployment number. Like if you're unemployed, you get X number of check, we doubled. Okay. Oh, stimulus, we're gonna send you stimulus. Payroll protection plan called PPP. Y'all may not know about that, but if you're an employer and you said, no, I'll keep my people, they gave you a big check just for paying your rent and keeping your people employed. I'm not saying it was wrong to do it, but it's $7 trillion that we put into the hands of consumers. And you know what consumers do when they get money? Spend it. Spend it. So you stop building stuff around the world. You might not, China just reopened. So you stop building everything, Rolex watches, clothes, everything, okay? And then you give people money. My wife went to Phipps Plaza, of course, with an armed guard, a year and a half ago. She goes to Phipps Plaza and she calls me, she goes, this is crazy. What's that? There's like no one here except there's a mile-long line at Louis Vuitton. So what happened to Louis Vuitton's purse prices? Went through the roof. Everything went through the roof because we stopped making stuff, but we didn't stop making money. We gave everybody the money. So when 3.5% went to 14.8, demand should have come down, and it would have come down, and prices would have stayed where they were, but we created a bigger economy by printing $7 trillion and giving it to consumers. And I'm not debating the efficacy of it, the political part of it. I don't get into any of that stuff. I control what I control. I didn't have anything to do with that. Reality of it is that's what happened. And now it's like the proverbial hose and a snake going through it. We're finally getting close to the end of this now. Why? We stopped PPP, we stopped stimulus, we stopped unemployment checks going out. We basically have told people, other than virtual, you're gonna need to go back to work, okay? We're not printing any more money, we're out of that business now. Factories have reopened, people are back in offices now. You sneezed, we all didn't leave, right? And there's nobody wearing a mask in the room. So, I mean, we're getting closer to normal. And all of that, by the way, is the story that you all just lived through in the real estate business. Because even though we lost 20 million jobs, do you know what they did for a living? Bartenders, waiters. That part of the economy rents roofs. They don't own roofs. So the reason housing went up is because people love each other and we're spending a lot more time at home together and thought that if we had a bigger home, we'd love each other even more. You move to your side of the house at work, I'll move to my side of the house at work. And interest rates, because the Federal Reserve controls monetary policy, interest rates went down. Why? Because the Federal Reserve believed that the economy needed juice. They should have looked over at fiscal policy, which was the $7 trillion, and said they're already juicing, okay? Because we did both juice at the same time and we basically just overstimulated. That's all we did. And now it is in full bloom, but here's the thing. Employment's still really good, but we're not doing the stimulus anymore. So it'll flame out over time. This is our volume last year, and I want to show you this is a local picture, okay? So we start the year in the month of January, we're doing $120 million. January is the weakest month of the year. This is last year's Supreme, so it's 15 months ago now. Look at the red line, interest rates are 3.45%. And you start seeing a march into going up to 4.30 in March. And then you see them climb again to 5.20 and then 5.50, and you can see the tempering of volume during spring when normally volumes are continuing to increase. 5.22 in August. By the time we get to October, it goes to 7%. And if you look at our volume, we kissed in the month of November, December. I don't count January because January is typically the lowest month of the year. But if we look at November last year, that was the bottom. And we put in a bottom, what I believe in real estate last year in the month of November. And by the way, demand did not go away. Demand just sat back and said, well, maybe rates will come back down. And then they didn't. I don't know about you, but when January 2nd hit, lights went back on. I mean, it was like all of a sudden people thought, you know what, rates aren't coming back down yet. And I need to get out in the market and actually do something because people have to move. Some people have to move, right? Kids getting out of college today, they form households, they start renting, they make a good living, they want to buy a house. And it's been going on forever. That process is continuing. And this is actually the weirdest market ever that I've seen because we do have a lot of demand still. And it's going to pick back up. And by the way, what you don't want is 4.5% interest rates. You don't. Because if we drop suddenly like that, we would bid houses back up again. And the affordability leg of the stool, which is required for us to be able to keep a stable housing market, it will get out of whack again. Because that's what drove prices. When we went down to 2.5% to 3% on 30-year fixed rate mortgages, Jim, do you want me to stop talking?
Want you to stop talking?
Are we okay? Stop talking?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So.
Did I give you a signal?
Well, you started moving around over there like,
No, Jeff knows what the signal is.
Okay.
This is the signal. That's the signal right there. Is that right, Jeff? Hey, Reed, is that right? That's the signal.
Well, now I know what the play is, okay? So, what are you waiting for? So what I want to tell you all is that shock, fastest interest rate incline, prior to that, was the fastest decline in June of 2020. And I told Doug Duncan, who's been immaculate with his forecasting over the years, I called him, I said, hey, like in July, August of 2020, I said, dude, are you like taking some medicine or something? Your forecasts are terrible. He said, how do you expect me to forecast the stuff that I don't understand? I don't know how long this disease, I don't know how, we didn't know 7 trillion of stimulus was coming. So, but we're now getting back into that place where he said his mother's proud of him again. She was thinking he was a little squirrely too, and he told me that. But anyway, I think we kissed the bottom of real estate in November because we kissed the top on interest rates. The truth is, this is Freddie Mac's rate, posted rate at 6.90. Today's about 6.50 today, as it was shared earlier today. And by the way, the site he gave you is a great site to go to. It's a simple place to follow rates. And it's, by the way, if you have a 680 credit score, that rate's not yours.
Thank you.
Okay, I mean, you know, there's things called LLPAs, loan level price adjusters, and by the way, you know, they matter greatly. So if you put 5% down, you're buying a condo and you got a low credit score, you hit the trifecta, okay? Your rate's gonna be much higher, right? So if you put down, you know, a lot more money and your credit score is a lot better and you buy a single family detached, I'm not telling people what to do, I'm just telling you the reality of it is pricing is not that number. That's just it's like a statement about relativity in the marketplace. That's all it is. That number today's at 650. It wants to go down. Okay? It wants to go down. And it will go down. It's like gravity itself. So this is inflation. And this started in, this chart is February 2020. Okay? So this is before COVID. The Fed has a targeted inflation number of about 2%. All right, so they want inflation, things like eggs and chickens to go up 2% a year. You all now know chickens are $10,000 for a pack of 4. You know, that's why eggs are $30,000 for a carton, right? But anyway, so inflation was running below 2.5 for years and years and years. And then all of a sudden, look at its climb. And if I showed you the previous chart again, it showed you interest rates, and you put them over each other, you'll see that inflation is the catalyst for interest rates to be higher. I can get into a long, detailed conversation about that, but Jim's going to get up and start walking towards me, and I don't like that. All right, so we hit 9. I told you the tap point. We hit 9 on inflation June, July last year. Interest rates tapped out about 2 months later because they react to the inflation numbers that are coming out. By the way, this week, we have CPI, Consumer Price Index. That is what consumers are paying for the same identical items month over month and year over year. So they track that number. PPI comes out the following day. PPI is the Producer Price Index. That is the input items, the raw materials, lumber, aluminum, that go into the things that are made that consumers ultimately buy. So both are important. CPI is the #1 more important idea because that's the finished product. Last month, the PPI was actually negative, which means the cost of raw materials, lumber and everything else, that's good for housing down the road, are starting to come down. And then the CPI is what ultimately people will, when they get a finished product, will actually pay for it, okay? So this is kind of a big deal, and if you can see the trend line, this is why when Jim called me, I said, look, this is just an inevitable, it's gonna return to the pre-COVID levels. There are some complexities, like that we don't control. Oil, you know, I mean, Saudis and OPEC just limited the output every day, but they didn't really do that necessarily to drive up prices. They did that because they see global demand going down right now because they think a recession is coming. That's what everybody's predicting. By the way, it's probably gonna happen, but here's the thing, you've already lived through one. Anyway, I have a chart. But you've already lived through one. And I'm gonna get to that in just a second, but this inflation number this week is a big reset. And it's either gonna be this month or next month or the following month that we're gonna get a better and better and better inflation report. And what that's gonna do is lead to lower rates. It's a fundamental reality. Those two things are in absolute correlation always, because what's happening is investors who buy long-term bonds like mortgages and 10-year treasuries, they're looking to protect themselves against the inflation rate. So the money that they invest long-term actually is growing. So you always see rates, generally speaking, on top of, not this time because inflation happened so fast, could hardly get there. And there was a bit of a denial on the part of the Fed. They were like, it's transitory. My good friend Doug is the funniest thing he's ever said. He goes, once upon a time, you know, the Fed said, we think inflation is transitory. Doug said, I was curious. By the way, economist, he said, Pat, I sleep with a Webster's dictionary next to my bed. I said, I don't. Just different kind of people, I guess. But he looked up transitory and it's got no timeline. So I guess everything's transitory at some level, right? So we are going to see things continue to get lower. Inventories in every industry are now growing. In every industry, inventories are growing. Like we're finally building all the stuff that we didn't build in a long time, and we're shipping all the stuff, and then people are facing off with inflation. And by the way, here's the real. We got employment labor numbers last week. Wages went up around 4.5%, a little bit less than that. Inflation's running about 2 points higher. You know what that means? Year over year, I can afford 2% less of everything. So demand ultimately then goes down. And when demand goes down, the economy actually goes down, and that's where recessions start, finish. But here's the thing. Historically, housing has led into recession, the economy, because it's 30% of all the economy, and it's also the catalyst to lead out of a recession. So we've been, as a housing industry, in a recession. I got some other slides here I want to show you real quick. First of all, seasons change. So Saturday, y'all remember Saturday? Who was back there telling us about their open house? She's gone. Guess she's going to do another open house.
And one right here too. One right there too.
Oh yeah, Saturday. You know what me and Lisa did? We were planning on having like an Easter egg hunt for the grandkids. We were like, that's off. I want to see my grandkids, but I'm not going outside in the 40-degree rainy weather. It's terrible, right? And we love Masters Weekend. My wife hates sports, but Masters Weekend, my God, put on that. It's just beautiful, right? It's George at his best. So that was Saturday. That was Sunday. Yeah. It's like we flipped. And I think last year, the second half of the year, what we did, and I told our peeps, adversity is the birthplace of best. When things aren't going right in life, you know, we either do one or two things. We either complain and get afraid and do nothing, or we control what we control. And we go, hey, I'm so grateful for all the stuff that is right in life, and I'm not going to be complacent or complain. I'm going to go ahead and do everything I can possibly do right now to get better for the next season. Because that's what the best do. They get better for the next season. And I thought if we have a little bit extra time on our hands, we're going to do training camp and start getting better. We do training camp now twice a week with all of our sales organization, everyone. All right, seasons do change. Where we're going, there's a lot on this chart. I'll send it to you monthly if you'd like. What this tells you is this, I just said that we were in recession in housing. In the first quarter of 2022, we had annualized home sales of 6.7 million. That was annualized, okay? That was the first quarter. The second quarter of 2022, 5.9. So it came down materially from the first quarter to the second quarter. That never happens. Second quarter is always better than the first quarter in this industry, but we're starting to see the trends change because we had affordability problems, both in terms of pricing being at its high point last year, early in the year, and then rates started going up, as I showed you on the previous graph. By the way, we go in the third quarter last year, 5.3, that never happened. So we're now 5.3 annualized, and all of us are starting to feel the slowdown then. Last summer, we finished the year at 4.7. I've never seen a chart like this in housing in 37 years, not even close. It's the fastest downturn I've ever seen, and the biggest downturn, worse than the Great Recession. Believe it or not, it was worse in a period of time. So, by the way, a recession typically is defined by 2 quarters consecutively where there's negative growth. 1,
2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay. First quarter 2023, down. Just by a smidge, but down. It's 5 quarters. Second quarter, this is national, and again, our markets are likely out producing this. We don't have all the data yet, but these are national numbers. Housing is flattening out now, but if you look at next year, we're actually moving higher. Next year's numbers are supposed to go up by almost 7% in terms of units sold. That doesn't feel like a lot, but when you see a lot of realtors exit the business, and they will, and the good news is there's a great job market out there, they can find another job, and there's a lot of mortgage bankers going to exit, there'll be less people in the business, and demand is going to continue to grow, and certainly you already know the story about the Atlanta marketplace. You ready to throw me out yet?
Close, not yet.
Close. Let me tell you about the banking problems. Anybody care?
Yes.
Okay. So it's really, first of all, fundamentally an easy thing to understand. I'm going to kind of make it as simple as I possibly can for you. You lend banks money. You're like, no, I don't. They lend me money. No, you lend banks money. When you give them your deposits, you're lending them your money. Okay? Now, because there's been no inflation and rates have been so low, they haven't paid you for your money in a very long period of time. They actually charge you for your money, right? They charge you like, I don't know, for your statements, if you ever wrote a check, ATM, they charge you as much as they can for your money. But you're lending them your money, and you're lending it to them short term. You can take it anytime you want. With me? So you lend them money. Then they take your money and they go and make loans with it. Home equity lines, credit cards, cars. And most of that lending is short term in its nature, right? Like credit cards are monthly. Car loans, 3 or 4 years. I get into a long detailed conversation about how they match those 2 things, but we don't need to do that. Banks get their money to lend you the money from 2 places. From you, and the second place they get the money is if they make a loan, home equity line, because they're a member of the FDIC and the Federal Home Loan Bank, they can take that note and they can ship it to the Federal Home Loan Bank, electronically of course, and they can get money, borrow against it. That's called Fed funds. They actually borrow, banks borrow from other banks and from the Fed. And all the Fed does is set the rate by which they're gonna interbank borrow, okay? So that's what happens. You go out to the West Coast and you're a local community bank, and there's a lot of startup technology companies there. They're going on forever. So those local banks know how to bank them. And the money's getting put in the bank, and like I have a bank account, right? And Supreme has a bank account. So I leave more money than $250,000 in the bank. Why? Because I'm not worried about Truist going out of business. So for a long time, this bank in California, in the Silicon Valley, has been lending to startups. They've been doing just fine, no problem. And then the Fed starts raising interest rates, and these companies are all borrowing money short term. Well, those short term rates went from 1/4 of a point, 1/2 a point, up to 5 in a year, fastest in history. Their cost of borrowing went up. A lot of them started to have struggles paying their bills, these companies, okay? And the rumor mill started out there that, wow, they're gonna struggle, so people started taking their deposits out of the bank. And when they take the deposits out, the bank doesn't have the cash money to lend to anyone else. So the FDIC and Treasury got together over a weekend. By the way, anytime they're working on a weekend, it's not good, okay? I don't know if they charge us all overtime, but I'm telling you, in my experience in 37 or 38 years, when I start seeing them do a bunch of stuff over the weekend, I always get a bit concerned, okay? That's like when they're looking behind the scenes saying, it's okay, don't worry. And they're like, oh my God, what the hell are we gonna do? And that's exactly what happened. And then what they said is they're gonna change the rules over the weekend without Congress. We're going to guarantee every account, not at 250,000 for these banks only. We're gonna guarantee no matter what, so the deposits stop leaving. That way the funding resource for loans for the banks still exists. This bank was not insolvent. People think, oh, they're criminals and crooks. That's not true. It just created this scenario. And so the Southeast, we don't have Silicon Valley here. Our local banking system, we don't lend the same companies. We're not concentrated. By the way, the bank in New York, the one up in New York, you know what they were invested in? Crypto, a lot of crypto money, okay? So the people that were in business up there, so Money Center, New York, so they watched through, their trading, and so they did exactly the same thing. The fascinating part of it, on the board of directors at the bank up in the Northeast in New York was a guy named Barney Frank. And Barney Frank is famous because the Dodd-Frank legislation that led to the Financial Reform Act out of the Great Recession, and he was on record telling everybody banks are terrible people. He was on the board of this bank, and they said, we're taking over the bank. He said, it's fine, there's nothing wrong with it. And he's probably right. It's just this fascinating set of circumstances. So it's probably quiet now. It got real quiet because the Fed and Treasury basically told the investor community that was trying to take these companies out of business, ain't gonna happen. We'll put all the deposits in if we have to. They backstop them. So it's shut down. Where the biggest problem going forward is probably gonna be is in commercial real estate. And why is that?
Everybody's working.
Because people are working virtually. Right, so my wife keeps asking me, what are we gonna do with the 25,000 square foot space that I have in Alpharetta? I told her we can make a bowling alley. A bowling alley and a brewery together.
Yeah.
Indoor golf range. We got all kinds of ideas. Right now, I'm just not worried about it. The reality of it is the local banking system usually lends all these strip centers their money. That's not Bank of America doing that lending. They lend the IBM Tower. Okay, that's their client. You think about it in rawest terms, what's going on is the local banking system's gonna have to deal with this virtual issue. That'll be a problem potentially down the road. But I think markets like ours, where 3.1% unemployment takes place, we made money last year in an industry that lost money. By the way, our industry, for the first time in the history of mortgage banking, lost money last year. I don't want you to cry a tear for us, or for Reed and team at Silverton. Thank you, because we didn't lose money, and I'm sure they didn't either, because we run good businesses and we don't do a ton of refinances. We just do our past customers, friends, and family. So that's how that actually worked. So let's see if there's anything else. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
I saw a troubling billboard on 285 that said no documentation mortgage loan.
Yeah, we as a company chose not to do those. There's a very small section of America, they're called non-qualified mortgages, that are still doing those. And I would just tell you, if lenders start calling you and talking about that, it's not a good idea, okay? I mean, when people don't document their income, you know why that's the case? They don't claim it. Which means if the IRS ever really does business with them, they're gonna find out they owe a tax liability, now they're gonna lien the house. This is how we got started in this role the last time around. So I would just tell you that that's a desperate lender who's trying to do things that are desperate to get loans. And from my vantage point, look, I want everybody that can be a homeowner to be a homeowner. The worst thing you do is make somebody a homeowner who can't afford the home, and then somebody has to show up and tell them they can't afford the home. I mean, it's the worst thing that could happen to a human being, in my opinion, or not the worst, one of the worst things that could happen to a human being. So we should not go down that road. And sometimes in a market like we just went through, salespeople get a bit, scarcity, and they wanna do whatever to do another loan, and I get it. But I just don't think that's the best thing for us to do long-term if we're gonna be a healthy industry. So the good news is there are some really stringent guidelines about doing it and not doing it. And we really haven't done that this time around. This is not, by the way, this recent bank crisis has nothing to do with Great Recession. I'm telling you, they are two completely, other than they're both banks, the banking industry, it's not the same, even close. That was predictable. Yes, ma'am.
So you brought it up, you said the recession is coming, and then you said, but you've lived through it.
Yep.
So 15% of us have lived through it.
Yep.
So what is your advice to the 85% of agents who doesn't even know what that looks like?
Yeah, so when I said you've lived through it, the last 8 quarters have been a recession. And I would argue worse than that because of the gravity of the numbers. Now, the prior 2 years were so good that you'd have to, if you study the industry, and I do, you had to know it was going to happen. It's just a question of not if, but when and how, right? And now we know the when and how. What I would tell you all is that the economy will follow housing likely down into a recession, the general economy. I don't expect to see, with 10 million job openings, I don't expect to see unemployment go from 3.5 to 6 or 7. I don't think that's coming. Anything's possible. I think it's more likely we're going to kiss, a recession. And the Fed right now, they probably got one more move in them, the next move, and then they're going to wait. And they're going to watch these numbers, and if inflation acts the way everyone will predict it will, rates will follow it, and then the Fed will be turning to the other side, wanting to kind of normalize rates, because when we get to 5.25, which is what they call the terminal rate, where they expect to get to, that number's higher than it needs to be long term. That number probably is going to be more like 3% a year from now. So, and they keep talking, if you listen to the news about soft landing, the Fed's job is to try to navigate to a soft landing. And they have 2 mandates, by the way, the Federal Reserve. They have a really simple tool, interest rates, they move it up and down, they lend to banks, and they move the rate up and down. And they have 2 mandates. One is full employment, and the second mandate is 2% inflation. So when they are judged to be doing their job well, they have full employment and 2%. They never get it done perfectly well. And by the way, when you're at 6% inflation, you're not doing good. But they're on their way there now, choking out the economy. What they're doing is raising rates. So the credit card costs go up, auto costs go up, housing costs go up. You know what people do then? Buy less. Guess what happens? On the seller side, sellers stop raising prices. They actually start doing the other thing. They start reducing prices. Now we get inflation to come in. It's a really simple concept. It's like gravity, and it's working, and it's going to work. And we're just on the move. So I think you all, by the way, I think you've lived through the worst of this. I do. And I think if, we're still going to have a problem in the Southeast, which is we won't build enough houses. The ingress is not going to stop, and the housing building, because of a lot of issues, labor, getting cost right, acquiring land, all the stuff, government regulation to get out of the way so we can actually build, all that stuff is problematic. But if you asked me today to start a new business and put my capital at risk, and if I was going to be in your industry or in my industry, I'd put that money in Atlanta, Georgia. That's where I'd invest the money, because I think the demographics are best, and I think employment is best.
We'll never see 3 or 4% again in our lifetime.
I actually think, Jim, to be honest with you, that we might see that in the next 12 to 18 months, because if the Fed...
3 to 4%?
Yeah. Because if the Fed waits too long and the recession gets deep, then they will have to stimulate harder. So their game is now navigating to try to get a soft landing. If they miss it and hold too long, yes, I'm talking about interest rates. And if they wait too long, because the world economy is not the way it used to be. So normal rates are no longer 6, like I said earlier, the 50-year historical rates at 7%. We're not the same economy any longer. Normal rates are probably more like 5 now. That's what they should normalize out based on demographic growth and demand around the world. So it wouldn't be hard to see 4 to 5% over the next couple of years. And some of that obviously is just you know, oil and do we start drilling again and all that kind of good stuff, and all those things are interesting debates.
So 5% by the summer?
Hey, what's the first rule?
My good friend Doug has
Be
said
quiet back there.
the first rule of forecasting is if you give a number, don't give a date. Yes, I think we're at 5% again. Other questions? Hey, I want to thank you for your time today. I really do. It's a blessing to be invested as a partner with a group of people whose values are very similar to ours. I love the teamwork that goes on here. Jim, congratulations for your leadership. If you want to join us, we have our personal professional buzz program. Last month was John Gordon. If you've ever read the Energy Buzz, fabulous writer, this guy. And we did training camp because I thought that the number one thing that I should do as a coach is to get our people back to basics after 2 years of being out of step with basics. And if you ever talk to, and this guy studied all the best people in every industry, and the best people in every industry do the simple things better than everyone else. And the training camp program that we just did, it's a 2-part session we did last month. It's again this month. John Gordon does a magnificent job in telling us the really simple answers to complex questions. Like, if you do these things, you're going to wind up getting better at what you do in life. And I'm out. Thank you all for your time.
This housing crisis right now is called because we don't have enough what? Listen. But sooner or later, that dam is gonna bust open. If you're not talking to your clients right now, and the people, you're missing the boats. The guys, Pat, thank y'all for coming today. You guys came and did that today. Thank y'all so much. We are dismissed.
One of my neighbors is like, very dynamic. They love it.
Thank you.